When's the last time you actually agreed with a movie critic? A lot of critics said the TV show The Idol was just so terrible, so I decided to wait for more episodes to watch it myself. But now that I've done so, I can honestly say, I think it's even worse than everyone said. Hi, I'm a random person on the internet. You're a random person on the internet. And together, we're here to talk about The Idol. Again. See, my last video covered episode 1 of the show, so you should definitely watch that one first if you haven't seen it. The Idol is this 5-episode HBO series created by The Weeknd, aka the biggest artist in the world, and directed by Sam Levinson, creator of HBO's massive hit show Euphoria, starring Zendaya. But The Idol is also a complete mess, and I'm not just talking about on screen. From a chaotic behind-the-scenes environment to a disastrous film festival that left critics saying the first 2 episodes were nasty, brutish, and way worse than you anticipated, this show is off to a horrible start. Now, I go into more detail about all of that in my first video, but here's the thing. Only 1 episode was available to the public at the time, and it wasn't nearly as bad as the critics said. So we kind of got left on a cliffhanger. Were the critics exaggerating, or did all of the bad parts happen in episode 2? Well, spoiler alert, episode 2 really is as bad as everyone was saying, and it gave us what many are calling one of the worst scenes in history. And yet, episode 3 of The Idol is far worse. That's right. Together, we will be watching both episode 2 and 3, so you are in for quite the ride. But before we get into all of that, let's take a quick moment to talk about today's sponsor. Let's talk about subscriptions. Not YouTube channel subscriptions, which are completely free, but the subscriptions that we pay for. There are a lot of them, but today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is an all-in-one finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. This personal finance app allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills, build a custom budget, and grow your savings all in one place. I use Rocket Money to identify recurring charges and cancel any subscriptions that I don't want with just a tap. The app also alerts me if any important changes come up that affect my credit score, while giving tips on how to improve it as well. Besides credit, Rocket Money is great for monitoring my budget too. I can set goals, get notifications if I'm passing them, and visualize my spending over time with helpful charts. And these are just some of Rocket Money's helpful features that will help you save more and spend less. So join the over 3.4 million members using Rocket Money today. I've got the hookup. Go to rocketmoney.com/D'Angelo or click the link in the description to get started for free to unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/D'Angelo to get started for free. Get your money right. Now let's get back to the video. This show does have a lot of characters, so I'm just going to give a super brief recap of episode 1 just so we remember everything that went down. So episode 1 of The Idol introduces our main character, Jocelyn. Jocelyn is a pop star who is struggling with her mental health after the death of her mother. We're also introduced to Jocelyn's team, including her best friend / assistant Leia and her creative director, Xander. Together with her managers Destiny and Haim, as well as Nikki the label exec, everybody except Jocelyn is absolutely panicking. They're scrambling to deal with an explicit photo of Jocelyn that has leaked and is threatening to impact her already declining ticket sales for her upcoming comeback tour. They manage to get things under control while Jocelyn practices her music video choreography with her friend and backup dancer Diane. Afterwards, Diane takes Jocelyn to a club owned by Tedros, played by The Weeknd, and everything goes downhill very quickly. Despite his intensely off-putting vibe, Jocelyn falls for Tedros for some reason. By the way, Leia is also with her at this club where she meets this guy Isaac, but he plays a bigger part later on. Anyway, the rest of the episode is just a challenge to get through The Weeknd's terrible acting as Tedros and the even more terrible dialogue, like this.
He's so rapey.
Yeah, I kind of like that about him.
Jocelyn invites Tedros over to her place where he decides to help her make her upcoming single sexier by actually acting out the lyrics, which is definitely not something I can show on YouTube, but yeah, roll credits. Now, if you watched the video where I covered this episode, then you know I'm making it sound a lot less terrible than it actually was in this recap, but worry not, because episode 2 of The Idol has plenty of terrible to go around. So this episode opens with Jocelyn's team waiting around to hear her newly updated single that Tedros helped her, work on.
Jocelyn says she's found her new sound.
What about the sound we created for her?
While they wait, Jocelyn's managers are trying to explain that she's been unstable lately due to her mother's passing, but Nikki thinks that this is not an excuse because, and I quote,
"People die. All the time."
Yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious. Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave? This is a line matched only by classics such as "People die if they are killed" and
"Everyone who lives in this world has a life."
Anyway, Jocelyn shows up to play her new song and oof. It's not good, y'all. She tried to make the song sound more suggestive, but I'm just gonna suggest a career other than music because nobody is feeling this. Well, nobody except Jocelyn, I guess. Now, the team's reactions are mixed, but Nikki has the ultimate say, and she is not having it.
This is something that like no one's doing.
Well,
Nobody sounds like
there's
this.
a reason no one is doing this.
If you've got me agreeing with the same lady who said people die all the time and mental illness is sexy, then you know the song is bad. So after Nikki shoots it down, since the label has already spent a ton of money on the single and its upcoming music video, Jocelyn threatens a very risky move.
That's fine. I'll release it myself.
Wait, baby, no.
Now Nikki's really mad, and she basically tells Jocelyn she has no choice but to do what the label says because she cost them so much money due to the cancellation of her tour after her psychotic break after her mother passed away.
Whether you like it or not, you are going for that ride.
Now that's obviously a lot for anybody to go through, so Haim goes to console her.
Didn't realize how hard this was gonna be without her.
When I lost my mother, I was a wreck for a year.
It's honestly a really sweet scene.
You know what I believe in? You.
Then the show immediately cuts to a scene in which Jocelyn chokes herself while touching herself while fantasizing about her time last night with Tedros. Again, this literally happened in the first episode as well, but it felt even more out of place here because we went from this really touching scene to, well, another touching scene, I guess. After this, she decides to call Tedros, who has been ignoring her texts all day. And here we get pretty much everything wrong with the idol in one shot, from the Weeknd's terrible acting to Tedros's stupid rat tail, which is being braided as we speak.
I'm literally about to sleep and then I realized my phone was on silent all day.
Anyway, Tedros suggests that Jocelyn ditches her team entirely since they won't let her drop that terrible remix that they made.
Maybe you need a new team. You should be surrounded by people who believe in you.
But nevertheless, Jocelyn continues to prepare until her big day arrives, the music video shoot. But from the moment she arrives, she feels like the vibes are off, starting with the set design.
What do you mean?
I just feel like it's like really ironic, like in a way that like the fans are not gonna understand.
We also find out that Jocelyn was over 3 hours late due to a really unfortunate reason.
She was in a makeup trailer. They were having to airbrush cuts on her inner thighs.
She's also being hypercritical of her own performance, so she runs through a ton of takes.
Sorry, it's just like a first take. I know it'll be better next time.
Oh no, it's brilliant. I mean, it looks great.
No, trust me, it'll be better.
And at this point, people are starting to get exasperated with her because she keeps shooting down perfectly decent takes.
I don't think it's a bad thing to push for something that matters. Can we just do one more? I really all right, one more, guys.
It all starts getting really tense, like Jocelyn is sort of getting manhandled by her well-meaning dancers, she's forgetting to lip-sync to her own song, and she's even getting outdanced by her own backup dancer Diane, which Nikki takes notice of.
Diane, why? She's out dancing everybody. Does she sing?
It's all getting so bad that Jocelyn just tries to cancel the day entirely, which Haim warns her not to do because he's worried that the label is then going to turn around and cancel her tour.
They're gonna pull the plug on the tour. I don't want to freak you out.
And you know what? At this point, without realizing it, I started feeling sorry for Jocelyn for the first time watching this show. I mean, sure, this character is a mega rich pop star complaining about a music video shoot, but honestly, the actress Lily-Rose Depp was doing a fantastic job of showing that this is also a person who has recently gone through grief, is experiencing a bunch of mental problems, and is just trying their best to get back to work. Meanwhile, Haim and Destiny have been looking into Tedros, and they find out that he's even shadier than he seems.
His last place of residency was Hawaii. And then after that, he doesn't seem to exist.
Since she's met him, Haim asks Leia to describe Tedros, which results in a scenario that is actually mildly funny, I won't lie.
He's a person of color. Yeah.
If you're saying he's black, you can say black. You're allowed to say black.
You are, in fact, allowed to say black. Anyway, this is where we see Haim and Destiny's attitudes towards Jocelyn in private, and honestly, they're pretty protective of her. In fact, it almost seems like they might even have her best interests at heart.
Our mother's gone now, so now we are new parents.
Okay, no.
That's what we promised.
Right.
But amid all this chaos, Nikki pulls Diane aside and realizes that she can sing as well as dance.
Touch me anywhere, ball and chain.
Okay, yeah.
And Nikki is so pleased with this information that she actually has Diane go record Jocelyn's own song off screen. So now we've got this intrigue where it's like, are they going to try to replace Jocelyn in her own music video? Meanwhile, Jocelyn herself is going through it, bruh.
I'm sorry, you guys. I really got to get this right.
But then the stars align And she actually gets it right. Like, she nails the choreography, she nails the lip sync. She pretty much just gives a flawless performance, only to find out that the main camera malfunctioned and therefore none of that performance can actually be used.
We gotta go again. Right away, let's go.
At this point, I was legitimately sad. Like, Jocelyn is actually bleeding and bruised on like her feet from the shoes and her legs from where she was getting grabbed by the dancers. And she's so out of it mentally that she actually calls for her mother.
Mom? What's up, John? What? Mom?
Listen, I've had a lot of fun picking on the show, but I just want to make one thing clear. This scene and Lily-Rose Depp's acting was honestly really good.
All over her face. Oh, man. Josh,
like, it took an episode and a half, but this right here, to me anyway, is actually good television. And it's legitimately heartbreaking.
You didn't just go for your mom.
No. My mom died last year.
It all got so bad that even Nikki, of all people, realized that they have to stop shooting for the day.
I need you to go home and get some sleep. I really, really want to go tomorrow.
But lest you think she's too concerned about Jocelyn, she may have just said that. That way she could get her out of the way and have Diane replace her in the music video shoot.
Robin!
Oh, great, thanks. Will you go get Diane, bring her here? Thanks so much.
And in this moment, I kid you not, I feel like the show was actually working perfectly. Like, I saw the potential. All of the emotions were emotional, I guess. This new conflict of Jocelyn versus Diane is actually interesting to me. But unfortunately, this is also the part where I realized that despite this like glimpse of hope, this show was never actually going to reach its full potential. And that is because of their incessant need to show you-know-who during this scene.
You're a star.
So in this scene, which is supposed to mirror Jocelyn's, Tedros is doing this bizarre dance rehearsal with Isaac, the guy Leia met at the club. It's bizarre. Isaac's got a shot collar on. It's dark and gritty or whatever. But honestly, it doesn't matter. None of this matters because I do not care about Tedros at all. That was a triple negative, and it was still not strong enough to show my utter lack of care for this character and everything associated with him. Even beyond The Weeknd's unacceptable acting, Tedros as a character is just so wholly unnecessary that the only time the show got good for half a second was when I completely forgot he was there. But trust me, the show is not going to let us forget, because even though we have all this decent plot over here, the entire second half of the episode revolves around him. So after another pep talk with Jocelyn and Haim, we find out that Diane and Tedros actually know each other. Like, know each other.
So, she better than me?
Baby, nobody's a better than you.
Ew. Anyway, as it turns out, Diane bringing Jocelyn to the club in the first episode was no coincidence. Diane appears to be completely under Tedros' control, and it's even implied that he would take whatever money she makes if Nikki winds up giving her a record deal.
Jocelyn's label. Great. I can finally get that return on you.
So at this point, there are 16 and a half minutes left in this episode. And let me tell you right now, I hated all 16 and a half of them. See, Tedros and his freaky friends show up at Jocelyn's house after she invites him.
This is Chloe.
Thank you.
I'm Isaac.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Isaac runs off to find Leia, who is rightfully skeeved out by the fact that he knows Tedros.
Of course I know Tedros. Everyone knows Tedros. But I want to know you.
But of course, she totally ignores her better judgment because she finds him attractive, and then everybody dances together as a song from The Weeknd plays in the background. Something about hearing The Weeknd singing in the background while seeing him on screen play a character who doesn't sing just really took me out of the moment. And that's saying something considering the fact that I wasn't really in the moment to begin with. Honestly, I was just waiting for this episode to end, and I figured that was about to happen because this sort of seemed like it would be the last scene, but no, instead all of the characters do coke, and then we get this nearly 5-minute long sex scene. Isaac and Leia run off to a bedroom to do their thing. Tedros and Jocelyn are going at it in a different room. Chloe is watching them from a corner of that room without Jocelyn knowing, which is really creepy. But the worst part of all by far was the dialogue. Like, the dialogue during this scene is just, oh man.
I want to grab you by the ass while I suffocate you with my.
Let's just say if I had gone my entire life without hearing Tedros say, "Imagine my fat tongue," or "Make that throat wet," I think I would have been fine. But even those lines pale in comparison to this absolute gem. And by absolute gem, I mean, I wish I didn't understand English.
Judge that tiny little.
And lest you think I was exaggerating about this scene being almost 5 minutes long, upon editing, I can confirm that this went on for 4 minutes and 45 seconds. It revealed absolutely nothing about the plot. It revealed absolutely nothing about the characters. Like, if there is a level beyond pointless, that is what the scene is. Anyway, after what was definitively the cringiest bedroom scene I've ever seen in my entire life, Tedros offers to help Jocelyn write 3 songs in 2 weeks to appease her label. But he follows that up with a very unsurprising suggestion.
I mean, it'd be easier if I moved in. Yeah.
And Jocelyn, of course, agrees to this because plot. So then the episode actually ends with everyone sitting around the piano and singing a song with definitely not foreshadowing at all lyrics.
It breaks my mother's heart.
It's a decent ending scene, but I don't think it needed to be nearly 3 minutes long. But truly, what would The Idol be if not for its long, drawn-out scenes? But yeah, that's episode 2, everyone. Yay. I can officially say that, like, the critics were right. The second half of this episode was borderline unwatchable. And seeing as people were calling this one of the worst scenes of all time, you'll never guess who decided to step up and defend it. The Weeknd isn't trying to seduce you with his Tedros performance in The Idol. If you felt uncomfortable or grossed out, then that's a good thing, he says. So in this GQ article, which is so defensive that honestly Tedros could have written it himself, The Weeknd has this to say about the show. It's definitely shaken up the culture for sure. We knew we were making something dark and controversial, but true to what we want to say. And yet, something tells me the culture remains fairly unshaken by The Idol. Like, being true to what you want to say doesn't seem that hard when you are actually not saying anything at all. Anyway, he goes on to make the obvious point that we're not actually supposed to find Tedros hot during that scene, but that does nothing to change the fact that that was one of the worst viewing experiences I've ever had to turn into content. But in the name of content, we will now watch episode 3 as well. But let's just say everything we just watched pales in comparison to what's about to go down. So episode 3 immediately opens with a shot of Jocelyn's bare chest because how else would we know she's in bed? You literally can't even see her face. Like, it's completely obscured by shadow, which I feel like is the opposite of how these things are usually filmed. But alas.
Get up. Let's go shopping.
If I woke up and saw this man staring back at me, I think I would just go back to sleep, but like forever this time. Anyway, Leia drives the two to go shopping as Tedros goes down on Jocelyn in the back seat of their extremely open convertible, while yet another song from The Weeknd blares in the background. And then Jocelyn gets swarmed by fans as the three of them enter the super high-end clothing shop Valentino. We're barely 2 minutes into this episode and I could already tell this is going to be another tough watch. So while Jocelyn is showing off her outfits, Tedros attempts to intimidate the store clerk for literally looking in Jocelyn's direction, I think.
Let me catch you looking at her again. Let me catch you looking at her again.
As if I didn't already have enough reasons to dislike this character, I guess we can add mistreating retail workers to the list. Anyway, while they're doing that, Leia is desperately trying to tell Haim and Destiny about Tedros's increasingly worrying behavior.
I'm really scared this guy Tedros is just like taking over the house.
At first, Haim thinks Leia means something like criminal, and I have to say, I kind of appreciate his reaction.
Gun. Oh. What does that mean he's taking over the house, Leia?
If Jocelyn was actually in danger, Haim would have been like,
call an ambulance! But not for me!
But Leia explains that it's more of like a psychological thing.
He's taking control of the house, like, mentally.
Tedros is trying to make a bunch of decisions without Jocelyn's input, but Leia, like a good friend and assistant, is trying to make sure that Jocelyn has the final say in all of it.
Sure, but I still have to talk to Jocelyn.
To which Tedros responds by being randomly ableist? Question mark?
Are you retarded? What did I just say? I'm running the show now.
Leia's face was definitely my face during this scene. Like, be so for real right now. We also see Tedros berating her other staff members. Like, he freaks out at Jocelyn's nutritionist / chef for touching her midriff.
Tedros, you don't understand. He's a...
Boundaries.
Even when Jocelyn explains that she was okay with it, he decides not to be. So much for boundaries, I guess. But like, if assaulting him wasn't enough, he then goes on to make Jocelyn fire him on the spot.
Andres, I'm really sorry. I just don't I don't know if this is the right fit anymore.
Like, come on, Jocelyn, show a little backbone. Lord knows you show everything else on the show. Anyway, the guy in charge of Jocelyn's ticket sales calls Haim to let him know how stressed out he is about her upcoming tour, or potential lack thereof, depending on her mental health.
She's making me have IBS. I'm more blood than a kid at Epstein's Island.
What an absolutely unhinged thing to write in a script, let alone to make it all the way to the screen. I'm telling y'all, this third episode was making the first two look like baby's first controversy, but like, we are just getting started. So back at Valentino, because this show thinks that nonlinear storytelling is like a personality trait, Jocelyn asks Tedros why he's so interested in helping her pick out her clothes, to which he, of course, insults her for no reason.
You don't think I have taste?
No, really, no.
Nothing more attractive than that, am I right? Jocelyn, though not to be outdone, fires back a retort of her own.
You know what I think it is? I think you're gay.
And his reaction to this is so scary. I literally thought he was going to attack Jocelyn like he attacked that guy she fired earlier.
I ain't gay.
There are really men out there who act like being called gay is a fate worse than death. Anyway, I guess the show had to like prove it to us. So in the very next scene, we see Tedros and Jocelyn going at it in public, right there in the Valentino changing room. And literally everybody is aware of this, by the way.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
And you know, if that's not already enough, which it definitely is, Jocelyn leaves Tedros high and dry in the middle of the act, so he decides to take matters into his own hands, quite literally, in public, in the Valentino changing room. And at this point, I just wanted to know one thing. Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Anyway, they head back to the house where Haim and Destiny get to see how shady Tedros is firsthand.
What school did you go to?
I wasn't the best student, unfortunately.
Now, unlike most characters in this show, Haim and Destiny are no dummies, so they pretend to be okay with Tedros so as not to set off any alarm bells.
You two keep doing what you're doing. 3 songs in 2 weeks, yeah? Hits.
They even make Leia think that they're a-okay with everything as well.
I love that guy.
It's amazing.
But the moment they're back in the car,
I think our girl's in trouble.
My grandmother said you never trust a dude with a rat tail.
now I know what you're thinking. It sure has been a while since we've seen Tedros go down on Jocelyn in front of other people. So that, of course, happens as Leia just sees them from the living room window. And, you know, as bad as I did feel for Jocelyn in the previous episode, that does nothing to change the fact that she and Tedros are absolutely insufferable together. Like, it was just straight up getting hard to watch. And this isn't even what I wanted to watch, by the way, because I wanted the show to focus on the plot line with Jocelyn getting replaced by Diane. So imagine how happy I was when they showed a few shots of Diane shooting the music video, but then that was it. Like, there was no dialogue. It was literally just that. It doesn't come back at all in this episode, even once. This show took the one thing that is remotely interesting and used it as filler footage, all while trying to force us to care about its most uninteresting character. I don't always hate it here, but when I do, it's because of stuff like this. Anyway, now it's time for Jocelyn and Tedros to get familiar with each other's teams. So first, Chloe and Jocelyn share a moment talking about her mother's death.
Was it really hard when she died?
Then Xander and Tedros share a moment where Xander expresses frustration with his limited say as Jocelyn's creative director.
At the end of the day, it's whatever the label and Jocelyn wants.
Then Jocelyn and Isaac have a moment where he asks her to sing with him and she declines.
No.
If Tedros heard you say that, you'd be in huge trouble.
And I guess the show figured that 5 minutes was too long to go without saying something deranged, so we get this exchange.
You're not allowed to say no.
You're not allowed to say no.
Yes. Yeah.
The phrase, "you're not allowed to say no," has more red flags than a Canadian gift shop, but Tedros's reasoning for why his followers aren't allowed to say no is even creepier.
Some of the most terrible experiences in life can be the most valuable artistically.
So by saying no, you're denying yourself an experience, and bad experiences make good art. And here I was thinking we left the tortured artist trope back in the 1800s. But just to make sure we really get it, the show's characters then go on to argue that Led Zeppelin singer Robert Plant's son dying at age 5 was actually a good thing because it led Robert Plant to writing a good song. Now, at this point, even Jocelyn's like, Hold up. Don't you think he would rather still have his son than like a good love song?
He would have chosen his son's life.
And that'd be a pretty big loss for the world.
To be clear, these are real people that we are now talking about. Robert Plant and his unfortunately deceased son. This is a true story.
That's really up. That's like actually up.
Now y'all got me out here agreeing with Jocelyn. And if the writing during the scene was any more on the nose, it would basically just be a screenshot of the script itself.
By losing his son, he was able to write something that saved a lot of people's lives.
Yes.
Anyway, to test just how committed Tedros' followers are to his don't say no mantra, Jocelyn has Isaac kiss another girl who is not Leia, even though she knows that this would hurt Leia's feelings. Have you ever been snaked by a friend and just for the clout they do it again? He actually does it, so Jocelyn tries to push it even further by seeing if he would kiss her. But then literally everyone's like, hold on. I don't think that's a good idea.
Why?
You know, Tedros would kill me.
So Jocelyn lets it go, and then in the next scene, everyone has a nice big dinner together like some sort of warped family. And these last couple of scenes are where the episode goes completely downhill, which is actually somewhat impressive when you consider the fact that it's been at rock bottom the entire time. So first, Jocelyn gives a heartfelt toast to these people that she has met literal days ago.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming into my life.
I've had headaches that have lasted longer than her relationship with these characters, and this show is a pretty big cause of them.
Defining your family.
Defining your family.
Cheers.
This is the kind of found family where you might just want to lose them again. Anyway, remember how in the first episode there was this explicit photo of Jocelyn that had leaked? Well, during Tedros and Xander's conversation about Jocelyn's creative direction, Xander had actually suggested that Jocelyn should use it as her album cover. So at the dinner table, they pitched this idea to Jocelyn, but she is not really feeling it.
I want to be taken seriously.
Why?
Tedros tries to push the issue with some flimsy logic about how she has to take risks, but Jocelyn finally stands up to him for once.
Why are you talking to me like I'm like new to the music industry? I'm not. You are.
But Tedros pushes back even harder this time.
What was the last song you wrote, Jocelyn?
He basically says that she cares too much about what other people think, and that's why her music is superficial. Why don't you just be yourself, he asks.
There's nothing about me that's relatable.
You sure about that?
So Tedros wants her to write about the darker aspects of her life, including her tumultuous relationship with her mom. Like, the show has implied a couple of times up to this point that Jocelyn's relationship with her mom was like a lot worse than they were letting on, but they haven't gone into detail yet. Tedros was obviously picking up on this vibe as well, so he tries to get Jocelyn to spill the beans.
I don't really feel like talking about it in front of everyone.
Too late.
Pressuring people into discussing painful things that they do not wish to do is definitely not the move, but since Tedros has already shown himself to be controlling in literally every other aspect of her life, why not this one too, I guess?
I don't keep secrets from anyone at this table. I'm not gonna let you keep secrets either.
So after some good old emotional manipulation, Jocelyn finally divulges the very unfortunate truth that her mother actually used to beat her with a hairbrush, like all over.
Just anywhere people wouldn't notice.
Why'd she do that?
Asking an abuse victim why their abuser decided to abuse them is obviously demented, but Jocelyn shares that her mother did this to motivate her, aka punish her for making any small mistakes.
She'd do it to help me remember my lines, to remember dance moves, to finish songs.
Jocelyn also said that her mother would just do it for no reason as well. Not that there is a valid reason for this, of course, but this apparently went on for pretty much most of Jocelyn's life.
Until the chemo made her so weak she couldn't lift up a hairbrush anymore.
So here are some valid responses to information like this. That's terrible. I'm sorry you went through this. I hope you're safe now. But instead of that, or anything like that, we get this.
You didn't fight back?
No.
Why not?
What? Like, what? Why would you ever ask this? Never mind the fact that Jocelyn was a child for the majority of that time. That's just not a sane question to ask in the first place. But I kid you not, he actually follows it up with an even worse one.
How hard did she hit you, Jocelyn?
Hard enough to break skin.
It's like the writers just Googled every single thing that you should not say to an abuse victim and wrote it all into the scene. But wait, there's more.
So you miss it?
Getting hit?
The motivation it gave you.
So if why did they hit you? Why didn't you fight back? How hard did they hit you? And do you miss it? seem like a bit much, imagine my shock when these were followed up with, "Do you think it was worth it though?"
If you loved the music you were making, would you felt like it was worth it?
And then she says yes. This is one of the worst television shows I've ever watched. But of course, it somehow manages to get worse.
You still got that hairbrush?
Yeah.
Go get it.
Yep, they went there. To help Jocelyn create good art, she seemingly allows him to recreate the trauma that she experienced as a child. All while they play a song from The Weeknd in the background.
This is really gonna hurt.
And then, as the demented icing on top of the demented cake, Jocelyn actually thanks him at the very end of the episode.
Thank you for taking care of me.
Roll credits. Episode 3 of The Idol, everybody. And shortly after it aired, The Weeknd once again tried to explain everything away. When asked about the negative reactions to the show, he said, "We're doing exactly what we wanted to do, and none of this is a surprise. I'm excited for everyone to watch the rest of the show." I am too, but only so it can be over and then I can finally be free. Anyway, this is the part of the video where I'm supposed to say things about the things that we just saw, but like, what did we just see, right? Like, what was that? Now, there are 2 episodes of this show left, and the final one is actually airing pretty shortly, and I can make a video about these remaining 2 episodes. But I absolutely cannot do that on my own, okay? I need so much eye bleach. So in the comments of this video, please recommend me a show or a movie that is better than this one. Not that that's a high bar. And please tell me what it is that you specifically like about it. The entire time between now and the final episode premieres, I will be furiously scrubbing my eyes with your suggestions. So please make them good. And if, and only if, I can undo the absolute soul cringe that was the end of episode 3, then we can watch the remaining 2 episodes in a final video. Until then, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for watching if you happen to make it this far. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.